Have you noticed that your hair is starting to stay everywhere except your head? On your brush, on your pillow, in the bathtub drain? So you stand in front of the mirror looking at your thinning hair and thinking, well, it's just age, nothing can be done. Well, I'll tell you, age has almost nothing to do with it. Your hair isn't falling out because you're over 50, it's falling out because of something going on inside you. And while you're buying shampoos for 500, 1,000 rubles and slathering your head with weird conditioners, the real solution is right there in your kitchen. It costs pennies, but you need to use it completely differently than you think. What this product is and how exactly it works, I'll show you towards the end. Stay tuned. In the meantime, let me explain what's really happening to your hair and why the problem doesn't start in your head. Hello, my dear viewers. My name is Murad Aliyev. You're on a channel dedicated to a healthy lifestyle. Today we're going to talk about something that worries millions of people after 50 years of hair loss. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll know more about your hair than after 10 visits to the dermatologist. Because the doctor has 15 minutes to see you, and I have a whole hour now, and I'm going to tell you everything. Let's start with the most important thing. Hair is not an ornament, it's an indicator. Just like the dashboard in a car. When a light comes on your dashboard, you don't cover it with a band-aid, right? You open the hood and see what happened to the engine. It's the same story with hair. If it's falling out, it means something's wrong inside. And putting it on the outside of your head is like covering that same light bulb. Let me explain in simple terms how hair works. Imagine a regular bulb, like an onion. Here's a hair follicle. It's similar. It sits in the scalp like an onion in the ground. It has a root, the most living part. Cells there divide at a furious rate. But the hair itself, the one you see, is, strictly speaking, already dead. It's just a protein rod. All the life is below, in the root. And this root is fed by blood. It's connected to tiny vessels, capillaries. They supply oxygen, vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, everything that hair is made of. What happens after you're 50? The scalp's blood supply deteriorates, the vessels become less elastic, and the lumen narrows. Imagine a garden hose that's been pinched and the water barely drips. The same thing happens with the blood that goes to your follicles. The supply is reduced. The follicle receives a signal that its resources are low, and it begins to conserve. First, the hair becomes thinner, then lighter, and then the follicle simply goes dormant, stopping producing hair altogether. But here's what's important to understand. Falling asleep doesn't mean dying. That's a fundamental difference. A dead follicle can't be restored by anything. The only way to do that is with a transplant. A dormant one can be awakened. The question is, how? And this is where most people make a mistake, one that entire corporations profit from. People buy shampoos labeled as anti-hair loss, serums and sprays, spending serious money. But shampoo, how long does it stay on your head? 2 minutes? 3? And then rinse it off. What can it do in 3 minutes to a follicle that's 4 millimeters deep under the skin? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Shampoo washes the surface. Period. The real work happens from within. And the number one enemy of your hair, even fairly good blood vessels, is something else entirely. There's a process in the body that accelerates in everyone after 50. It's quiet, unnoticeable, and tests won't always reveal it. But it's what's suffocating your follicles. What is this process? I'll tell you right now, but first I want to ask you if this topic is important to you. If you want to understand the causes and not just gloss over the consequences, subscribe to the channel. I post these analyses every week where I explain complex things in simple terms. One click and you won't miss it. And we continue. So I promise to name the process that's quietly killing your hair after 50. It's chronic, low-grade inflammation. In the West, doctors even came up with a special word for it, but we don't need terms. We need to understand the essence. Imagine a small fire constantly smoldering in your body. Not a fire, no fever, no pain, you don't feel it. But it's there, and it's slowly burning through your resources. The very same resources that should be used to build hair, nails, and renew your skin. Where does this fire come from? There are many reasons, but the main three are sugar in the diet, lack of exercise, and stress, which has become the background of our lives. We've become so accustomed to it that we don't even notice it, but our bodies do, every day. Now about hormones. The picture isn't complete without them. After 50, women's estrogen levels drop. This is the same hormone that has protected their hair their entire lives, making it thick and shiny. Menopause begins, and this protection fades. Hair begins to react to another hormone, a male hormone, which every woman has in small amounts. It causes the follicles to shrink, causing the hair to grow thinner and thinner until it stops growing altogether. Men have a different story. With age, testosterone in the body transforms into a more aggressive form. It literally attacks the follicles on the crown and frontal areas. This is why male baldness starts at the top, while hair remains on the temples and back. The follicles there are resistant to this hormone. You might think, well, hormones, age, what can you do? But a lot can be done because the speed at which these changes occur doesn't depend on your passport. It depends on what you feed your body and how you move. Some people have thick hair at 70, while others at 45 have a spot on top. Genes play a part, but genes are like a loaded gun, and the trigger is lifestyle. And here I want to talk about the thyroid gland. It's small, like a butterfly, perched on your neck, but its influence is colossal. It controls metabolism throughout the body. If the thyroid is sluggish, and after 50 this is very common, especially in women, everything slows down. Digestion, energy, mood, and hair growth too. The follicle simply doesn't receive the command to work. It sits in sleep mode, like a computer you forgot to turn on. How can you tell if your thyroid is acting up? Here are some simple signs. You're constantly cold, even when the room is warm. You wake up feeling tired in the morning, even though you've slept enough. Your skin is dry, your heels are cracked. Hair loss isn't limited to your scalp. Pay attention to your eyebrows, especially the outer edge. If the outer third of your eyebrows is at their limit, that's a classic sign. See an endocrinologist and have your thyroid hormones checked. This is a simple blood test and isn't expensive. In the meantime, support your thyroid with your diet. No expensive supplements are needed. The thyroid gland loves iodine, but from food, not pills. Seaweed costs pennies, and it contains so much iodine that 1 tablespoon a day covers the daily requirement. Don't like seaweed? Add it to a salad. Disguise it with garlic and lemon juice. The taste will change completely. Selenium is another element that helps the thyroid function poorly. 3 to 4 Brazil nuts a day will meet your daily requirement. But if Brazil nuts are too expensive for you, garlic, eggs, regular sunflower seeds, a handful of sunflower seeds, and you've got selenium. The third element is zinc. Pumpkin seeds are the best budget-friendly source. You can add a glass a week to your porridge. Here's the first specific recommendation. In the morning, have porridge with a spoonful of pumpkin seeds and a pinch of seaweed. Sound unusual? Try for a week and look at your nails. They're the first to react, faster than your hair. If your nails have become stronger, it means your follicles have also received nutrition. But the thyroid and hormones are only half the story. There's another hidden deficiency that affects 70% of people over 50, and it may be the main reason why your hair is falling out. What is this deficiency? Listen further. I promise to tell you about a hidden deficiency that affects almost everyone after 50. It's iron, and here's why I call it hidden. You go to the doctor, get a complete blood count, and the doctor checks your hemoglobin level, which is 120 to 130. He says everything's normal, and you leave and your hair is still falling out. Why? Because hemoglobin is the last indicator to drop. It's like gas in a tank. As long as there's some gas in the tank, the car keeps going, but the reserves are already running low. Another test, nephrotin, shows the body's true iron reserves. It's a protein that stores iron in reserve, like a piggy bank. And for a huge number of people, this piggy bank is empty, but the hemoglobin still holds on. The body draws its last reserves from the liver, muscles, and bone marrow, and the first thing it saves on is hair. Because hair isn't a vital organ. The heart needs iron more, the brain needs it more, but hair can wait. So it waits and then it falls out. The Ministry of Health recommends that ferritin levels in adults be no lower than 30. But many trichologists, doctors who specialize in hair, say that for good hair growth, ferritin should be at least 50 and preferably 70. Ask your doctor to prescribe this test. It's inexpensive and quick, and it provides more clarity than 10 shampoos combined. Now, where can you get iron if your ferritin is low? The first thing many people do is run to the pharmacy for pills. Wait. Iron pills are hard on the stomach. Constipation, nausea, dark stools, these side effects are familiar to many. If your doctor prescribed it, of course, take it, but also improve your diet, because iron from food is absorbed more smoothly without side effects, and the body takes in exactly what it needs. The best source is liver. Chicken, beef, it doesn't matter. 100 grain of liver 2 or 3 times a week, and you'll have more than enough. Liver is inexpensive and cooks quickly. Don't like liver? Buckwheat, our native cheap buckwheat. It doesn't have as much iron as liver, but there's a trick. Eat buckwheat with something sour, sauerkraut, a lemon wedge, or a tomato. Vitamin C increases iron absorption 3 to 4 times. This is a proven fact. However, tea and coffee immediately after a meal actually block it. Tonins bind iron and transport it out. So, if you're used to drinking tea with lunch, wait at least 40 minutes. There's another pitfall that few people know about. Calcium interferes with iron absorption. If you take calcium tablets or drink milk with meat, the iron misses out. Space them out. Dairy in the morning, meat at lunch. A simple rule that really makes a difference. Here's specific recommendation number 2. Liver with buckwheat and sauerkraut 2 to 3 times a week. It's cheap, it's delicious, and your follicles will thank you. Retake your ferritin levels in a month and compare the numbers. Okay, we've covered the iron part, but here's the thing. You can eat the best foods, get iron, zinc, and selenium, and your hair will still fall out. How so? That's right, because you can load your body with whatever you want, but if it's not absorbed, it's no use. Imagine you're filling up your car with gas, and there's a hole in the gas line. The fuel leaks out and never reaches the engine. And here we come to a topic that's rarely discussed in the context of hair. Your gut? Yes, that's right. Sounds strange. What's the connection between the gut and the crown? It's very direct, and this is perhaps the most underestimated cause of baldness after 50. I'll explain why in a minute. And let's also return to that same cheap remedy I mentioned at the beginning, because it's also connected to the gut. So, the intestines and hair. At first glance, they seem to have nothing in common, but recent medical advances have revolutionized our understanding of this organ. The intestines aren't just a tube for digesting food. They're a factory where everything beneficial you eat enters your bloodstream. Vitamins, minerals, amino acids, all are absorbed through the intestinal wall. And if this wall is inflamed, damaged, or clogged, absorption decreases. You can eat a kilogram of liver and the iron will still pass right through. After 50, most people's intestines aren't in the best shape, to put it mildly. A decade of less than ideal nutrition, antibiotics, stress, all of this takes a toll on your gut flora. And your gut flora is made up of trillions of bacteria that live in your gut and help you digest food. When there are few beneficial bacteria and many harmful ones, an imbalance sets in. Food isn't properly digested, nutrients aren't absorbed, and your hair follicles starve. According to the WHO, intestinal microflora imbalances affect more than 60% of older people in developed countries. That's more than half. And many don't even suspect it, blaming symptoms like bloating, irregular bowel movements, and heaviness after eating on, well, age. What can you do? The first and easiest thing to do is try fermented foods. Sauerkraut. If you're not already eating it every day, start. It's fermented, not pickled with vinegar. It doesn't contain live bacteria. Naturally fermented sauerkraut is a natural source of beneficial bacteria. A couple of tablespoons with each meal. After a couple of weeks, you'll notice your digestion is more balanced. It's practically free, especially if you make your own. The second thing is kefir. Plain, fresh, no additives. not yogurt with sugar and flavorings, just plain kefir. A glass at night is a classic that works. Live bacteria from kefir colonize the gut and restore order. Third, fiber. Beneficial bacteria feed on fiber. If you eat few vegetables, you're essentially starving your microflora. Beets, carrots, cabbage, apples, anything crunchy and fiber-rich. This isn't just healthy eating, it's fuel for your bacteria, which in turn help absorb hair vitamins. Now pay attention. Remember, I mentioned a cheap kitchen remedy earlier, potato juice. Well, potato juice works, including through the gut. The starch in raw potatoes is so-called resistant starch. It isn't digested in the stomach but reaches the large intestine, where it becomes food for beneficial bacteria. Essentially, it's a natural prebiotic. Scientists have proven that resistant starch improves the composition of the microflora and reduces inflammation in the gut. But that's just one of the mechanisms by which potato juice helps hair. There are two more, and one of them is directly related to the scalp. We'll definitely come back to that. I'll show you everything step by step, but now I'll tell you something equally important. We've covered hormones, iron, and the gut. Three internal factors, but there's one more, and it's literally on the surface on your head, or more precisely, in your scalp. Something happens there that you can influence today, right after this video. No pills, no money, no nothing. Just your hands. And I'm serious. It works because it's all about blood flow. Remember the analogy with the pinched hose? We can unclamp it. I'm about to show you something that almost no one does. And they should. It's about the blood supply to the scalp. We've already talked about how the follicle is nourished by the blood. Blood brings oxygen, vitamins, and minerals. But after 50, blood flow to the scalp weakens. Blood vessels constrict, scalp muscles tighten, especially in the frontal and parietal areas. This is where hair thinning most often occurs, while the back of the head and temples don't. Ever wondered why? Because the back of the head has better blood circulation. The anatomy is different there. And here's what happens. You can improve your diet, get your iron, thyroid, and intestines in order, but the blood still isn't reaching the follicles. The last kilometer, as the logistics say, is when the product is in stock, but delivery isn't working, so you need to improve delivery. The first and simplest thing is a scalp massage, not a 2,000 ruble salon procedure. Use your own fingers, every day for 5 minutes. Morning or evening, it doesn't matter. The technique is simple. Place the pads of all 10 fingers on your scalp, not on your hair, but on your skin. Then begin to gently but noticeably move the skin in a circular motion. Don't slide it through your hair, but rather move the skin relative to your scalp. Start at your temples, move up to the crown, and down to the back of your head. 5 minutes. The skin should warm up and turn slightly red. This means the blood has rushed in. This technique has been known for centuries in Eastern medicine, including China and Japan. There, it's called awakening the 100 points. The scalp is home to a huge number of biologically active points that are connected to the internal organs. When you massage your scalp, you stimulate not only the follicles, but also the nervous system. You relieve tension and improve sleep. Triple benefit, and it's free. There's another technique from Eastern practice that only a few people know about. It's called tapping. Take your fingertips and lightly tap your entire head with quick strokes, as if you were typing on a keyboard. 30-40 seconds. The feeling of invigoration is immediate. Blood rushes to the skin, and the follicles receive a dose of oxygen. This second exercise is for those who sit a lot.